Wow, that's so interesting, guys, that I've actually managed to come in here at 7:11. Interesting timing, to say the least. We're going to do some unpacking for the astrological events of this season that is November. October was definitely interesting to be able to prepare us for exactly this moment, to position us in exactly this place. So hang tight. We're going to go ahead and break it all up and condense it so that it's actually edible for us to digest it. Stay right there, guys.
Staring at herself in the mirror on the restroom door. Voices in her head that mirror what she's heard before.
That part, guys. So we've got to get the dramatics into the space, coming into the space. So, oh, this is going to be an epic November, guys. Before I do forget, be sure to comment down below and let me know how you're able to effectively utilize the information that I'm going to be providing to you guys. And also do be sure to subscribe if you like my vibe, guys, and you want to be a part of the tribe. I'd love to have you. And be sure to give this video a thumbs up. That way I know that you're appreciating the content and the extra effort that I'm trying to put in for you guys to kind of get things moving in a certain direction. So guys, we have so much to talk about. This season is just so epic. And I know I say that what seems like all the times, but honestly, it's not as often as you might think. So we kind of close out October and come into the month of November. I don't know if you guys have felt the energies, but it's definitely very fast paced, very quick movements, definitely shiftings of timelines. You could just feel all of this movement that's taking place in the universe. And you can tell that November is going to be quite the month to adapt to, because there is such a fast flow with these waves that are taking place at the minute during this season. And what I will say is that we are definitely sort of continuing the momentum of October and kind of coming down, hopefully by the end of 2021, coming down, but we're still riding the wave whilst it's kind of building momentum and it's building height at the same time. So we are sort of going through this ascension point that's really allowing for us to see like these higher viewpoints of perspective. And it's so awesome, guys. It's super amazing. I'm literally just getting the details up on my phone here. Don't worry. Just so that I can actually see the screen whilst I'm here with you guys. Hey, Rush. Oh, that's a bummer. That's a bummer. I'm actually just wanting to break down this November because it's going to be so interesting for us. I don't know. I was just saying that the movement is so quick at the minute. It can be a lot for us. I'm finding that we're kind of, a lot of the things that we've been praying for, they're kind of manifesting themselves. So we're in like the panic zone at the minute, and all of these things staying present right now. That's a transformation we're going through this month. Absolutely. Staying still enough to know when to actually kind of move. So it's very tricky, because basically there's a lot of things that we've been praying for. Jupiter, the blessings giver, has now gone direct. So we're about to start receiving some of those things, but we have to be in certain positions to catch them. So it does require us being still in making sure that we have a steady grasp on the things that we're trying to manifest, but we will have to move around to be able to be in the right positions to receive these windows of opportunities as and when they show up. So it is going to be very interesting. We've got a couple of classes coming into this month. Oh, okay. That's not bad, actually, looking at that. So this is really going to bring you, that would be sort of like seventh house vibe. So it's going to I guess, allow for you to go through a transformation in terms of your partnerships. That would be business relationships, friendships, and romantic partnerships. However, that is pretty much the theme for, I guess, this season of November, or this class of November, because Mars literally went into Scorpio on the 30th of October, just as we were sort of coming into November. So it's really just kind of indicative of the fact that we're going to be going through romantic transformations anyways for this month. And November is universally is kind of the universal number of 2, 11, right? 1 + 1, 2. So this is really kind of giving us an opportunity to learn how to find the balance in juggling things. That does mean time management. That does mean personal self-care management as well. So Chiron went retrograde a while ago, but Ceres also sort of went retrograde last month in October, I believe, giving us an opportunity as well to really focus on our self-love and what that actually means. So there's so much taking place, guys. I hope I'm making sense to you guys, because I feel like there's so much information that's coming out, and I really want to share all of this stuff with you guys. And I'm trying to find the best way to be able to articulate, but we're really going into a class of finance this month. On the 4th, we've got the Scorpio new moon, sort of giving us an opportunity to transform some of our mindset around certain things and just kind of get a little bit of perspective. Again, I'm trying to get the details up on my phone so that I can sort of really dive into it with you guys. But yeah, okay, for where you're actually sort of born. What star sign are you, Rush? Enlighten me. Universally, it's your 7th house. Personally, it's also your 9th house. So there's 2 variables to work at. That's why we have to work with our ascendant sign as well as our sun sign. Sun sign being the true nature, ascendant sign being the conditioned version of ourselves, if you will. So there's a duality there. Okay. I like that. Give us all of the insights. Right, guys. Scorpio in Pluto. Virgo sun. Okay. Oh, this is interesting. That's a nice little mix of energy there for you. Earth, water, and fire. That's interesting. I love your personality already. Love your personality already. I'm sure there's a lot of ways that you can. Oh, I understand, and I get that. I do get that. Sometimes it can be a little bit, with being like a Cancer moon, it can be like really quite sensitive, being in certain environments, especially when people struggle to. I don't go out my way to be around people. Yeah, I was about to say, especially when people kind of struggle to be able to just kind of appreciate your presence, if you will. It can be like really quite tricky. Bear with me, guys. I'm just looking for. No, and I get that. That would be the Sagittarius rising, which is why they shouldn't mess. Like it's not a game, okay? Like that will be checked very quickly and put back into place. But I mean, it's up to them whether or not they want to try, right? It's nice to know that you're fully aware of all the layers of yourself as well. I think it definitely sort of helps us to get some insight into how to utilize some of these energies that we're going to be sort of navigating through, because it is going to be quite epic. This month, we've got a partial lunar eclipse also taking place on the 19th of November as well. And that's going to, I guess, be very, how can I put this? I can't learn anything from anyone around me there. And I understand that when you go through the awakening process, it is tricky to kind of like adapt and sit in the mundane world as well. Yeah, I'm 28. No. Yeah, and I get that. I know it's tricky sometimes to kind of like be in the mundane world and kind of like stay fully present in yourself at the same time as well, because it's tricky because there's so many conditions and there's constantly stuff that's kind of like firing at us. But it serves a purpose. It serves, I guess that's why we're doing like this live thing, just so that we can have those types of experiences as well. I think sometimes when we awaken though, it just feels very much like a containment. You know what I mean? It feels like it's containing all of your potential and all of your capabilities. You kind of want to come out of yourself. Oh, are you going through a solar return? Okay, yes, you are. Scorpio season is here. Okay. Scorpio season is here. So you're definitely going through sort of like a transformation nonetheless. So this Scorpio new moon is definitely going to be giving us an opportunity to really dive a little bit deeper into just some of the ways that we have been learning about our finances. Because, okay, so bear with me. I'm getting like all my thoughts are like firing off at the minute. So first, on the 4th of November, we've got the new moon in Scorpio, right? And that's kind of the first week of November. We're going through this process of transformation. We're going through this process of change. We're going through this transitionary period, especially with Mars being in Scorpio as well. We're also just kind of getting this opportunity to really start making those actions of transformation, really start making those actions that reflects the transition that we've kind of gone through. And the first week is going to be a little bit about how disciplined we are. And this is going to be an interesting class for us, because there's a lot of things that we would have upgraded on mentally and emotionally, but we're still sort of working on getting certain actions into alignment or certain behavioral patterns into alignment. And the Scorpio new moon is going to be able to give us some insight into that, which is going to be really, really quite... I guess I personally tend to find the Scorpio new moons to be very intense, because we are getting like an intuitive sort of upload as well. Emotionally, that's the tide that's kind of pulling us into these transformations. So it can be quite intense. If there's any emotions that you find that you're still sort of like maintaining or trying to figure out how to manage yourself when you're in these emotional states, this Scorpio new moon is going to give you a little bit of clarity on how to be able to do that. Identify your code. So what do I mean by that? Like when you find yourself going into low vibrations and you find yourself maybe in the spirit of anger, for instance, learn the code of how your anger is showing up in that situation. So what was your trigger in the situation? How many times did they have to push the button? Because sometimes, you know, when we've been working on ourselves, it takes a few times for, I guess, us to be able to actually react to certain trigger points, right? And it takes a few times for them to press a certain button, but it depends on what level they're pushing. So it might be respect, disrespect, anger. That may not necessarily be something that you're so... because there's so many layers of anger. There's disrespect anger, neglect anger, there's being misused. There's loads of different layers of how anger actually operates as a behavior, and they all have different I guess ways that they express themselves, like different personality types in terms of how they express themselves. So it's about really trying to understand the different personality types of how you're actually showing up in certain situations when you're triggered. Learn what personality, basically what sub-personality is showing up and engaging in the atmosphere at that point. I hate disrespect. Sometimes I got to let things slide because I don't have the energy to be yelling every minute. Exactly that. And the thing about it is, when anger shows up, there's something very important that anger is here to teach. There's a lesson that anger is here to teach as well. Anger is obviously sort of like doing the internal teaching because it's having the internal dialogue, but how we choose to articulate it is how we're able to educate somebody else. Because anger is actually a very useful shadow. That's my thing, guys. Like, I'm definitely working on some stuff for 2022 so that we can really I guess, optimize our human by being able to learn how to navigate through the shadows, and actually appreciate some of these shadows, because I feel like a lot of these shadows are underrated just because we don't know how to ride the waves with them. And when they show up to give us an opportunity to optimize our potential, we kind of fall we fall off the surfboard. I'll put it like that. Too much tension in the air, and because we're not adept, I guess, at emotional management, it's not something that I guess we regularly teach in society. Now we're getting to a place as a collective where we're moving into awareness of just how important it is. So I believe that in time, give it a couple of years or so, we will be in a much better place with our emotional management. But in the meantime, I'm working on some stuff to get us ready for that. Yelling. So this is a thing with disrespect anger. So when disrespect anger is triggered, right, yelling lets you know that, okay, I feel like I've been disrespected. What is it that I'm feeling like I'm being disrespected with? I don't feel like I'm being heard. So now my decibels are starting to get louder. My humans feeling like it's not being able to communicate effectively in terms of what it's trying to say. So now you have to intercept, I guess, literally, like you said, you don't feel like basically giving that sort of yelling energy all the time when it shows up. You intercept it, you choose a different way to be able to articulate the very thing, because a lot of the times, every time, in fact, sadness is actually the thing that anger is masking. Sadness and disappointment, a lot of the times, is the thing that anger is masking, and anger shows up as the armor. So this is what I'm saying, like the shadows serve a very important part in the evolution process for us. And I feel like God is really going to be taking us through a process over the next couple of years of really learning how to work through these shadow moments, so that we can be a little bit more adept at navigating through the valleys when they do show up for us. I yell when someone deserves it. I don't do anything to anyone. And I hear you on that, 100%. I was never like this growing up. What do you mean you were never like that growing up? What does that mean? Because again, anger is basically a symptom of infection. So what I mean is, it's kind of like, okay, it's a symptom of misuse or mishandle. It's a symptom to say that somebody in a particular environment, i.e. the circumstance that you're dealing with in that moment, has basically harmed a person. They've harmed you in some sort of way, and it kind of builds up. Yelling in the street and wanting to fight someone who's taken me for granted outside. Yeah, that happens. That happens. This is the thing with us activating, right? And this is why I feel like God is really going to be helping us to learn how to adjust to some of these shadows, because as we ascend, so too does our shadows. Okay, those little gremlins grow bigger as well as our light. So we actually have to find a way to be able to learn how to contain them as we kind of go through the process of ascending. And we're in a good place with it. We're in a good place with it. Who started trouble with me, and they look at me crazy when they've called me derogatory name more than once. Well, that's the thing. It's gaslighting. Do you see what I'm saying? And that's the thing. A lot of the times people will basically press your button. And this is why you need to understand, this is what I'm saying. When you get to that level of anger, that's no longer anger. You're now in the vibration of rage, right? Because rage is more reactive. Anger is more subjective. So anger basically wants to articulate itself. Rage wants to let it be known that it's hurt. And this is... yeah, they don't want to fight you. You fully under the possession of the spirit of rage. Hell no, I do not advise them to fight you. And it does make you feel better afterwards, because anger is a protective armor. It actually, like, you know, it basically puts us in a place where our sadness doesn't feel so much sorrowful. It actually gives us an opportunity to be empowered in that place where we've actually felt weak from a certain moment in time, basically. But anger serves a purpose. It serves a purpose, but it's about how we choose to articulate and utilize anger. Sometimes people need to learn lessons. Sometimes people do need to be put back in certain places and, you know, escorted into their lanes appropriately, just so that they're able to really learn whatever class they need to sort of sit next. But yeah, again, these are some of the things that's going to be coming up for us during this class, November, to give us an opportunity, guys. If we can pass the test, we move through the resistance. So that next version of ourselves, like we've been working, like I said, toiling away at making sure that our minds are right, that our emotions are in check, that we are spiritually balanced as best we can, because we're only human at the end of the day. And with this season, this class is going to help us to be able to really just define things a little bit better, understand a little bit more about ourselves, understand a little bit more about how we actually show up in certain situations, to get some clarity on what needs to be done. On the 5th of November as well, we actually also have Mercury going into Scorpio as well. So if it's not bad enough, and when I say bad enough, I don't mean bad, but you know what I mean? Like Mercury is also going to be going into Scorpio. Mars has already entered Scorpio as of the 30th of October, coming into this chapter of November. So our minds are also going through this transformation, as well as our actions, right? Which is very, very important. Venus is going to be entering Capricorn on the same day. So on the 5th of November, Venus enters Capricorn when Mercury enters Scorpio. So that kind of shift, but I guess patience is a test. It is, because that's the whole point. You need to, when you understand how many times they poked, like what layers of anger are they taking you through to get to that place of feeling the way that you're feeling, because there's basically a code. There's a code there. You need to figure out the code so that you can crack the code, so that they no longer have access to that button externally. And when I say that, I mean, what are some of the words that they're using that is basically like the big trigger? Because, you know, certain words, it's like, okay, I can swallow that. You know, that's cool. I can see some truth in this as far as like what perspective you are looking at me from. Cool. But there are certain situations that are so far-fetched that is like an assassination of our character, that we get to a place where we feel like we must defend, and now we're on battlefield, like literally spiritual warfare, guys. So it's definitely going to be quite an interesting class for us to sit this season. We've got a few things sort of going on as the month kind of unfolds for us. So kicking off the second week, we've got Palais going direct as well in Pisces. So this is definitely going to give us an opportunity, if anything, to be able to get with the program of these subconscious sort of transformations and shifts that's taking place. So once, this is interesting as well. There was sorry, I literally just started reading your thing, and I lost connection with the channel that I was actually in. But yeah, so once Palais goes direct in Pisces on the 8th, kind of kickstarting the second week, we've got a couple of days before we've got any sort of significant changes. So the next change we have is on the 11th of November, so 11/11, if you will, where we've got the first quarter moon in Aquarius. So we're starting to get newfound perspectives. We're starting to get new upgrades in terms of the way that we're actually sort of showing up, the way that we're actually engaging with people, and the way that we're actually able to, I guess, represent ourselves. Because a lot of the times we can sort of say people took us out of our character, but also it's just a case of us being open and honest as well, to be able to say we misrepresented ourselves in those moments as well. Because there may have been other ways to be able to handle situations. Not that we've, I guess, learned some of those ways just yet, which is why the situation unfolded the way that it has. But God is asking us to basically find a different way to be able to navigate through some of these things, because he wants us to be able to have the situations feel a little bit more secure, a lot more stable. Because after we've got the first quarter moon in Aquarius, we've also got Juno entering Capricorn as well, with Venus in Capricorn, and that takes place on the 14th. So again, we are literally getting an opportunity to just stabilize. We're getting an opportunity to be purposeful and intentional in the way that we're actually manifesting some of these transformations that's taking place, particularly in our romantic lives, right? Because some of these transitions, we've got a movement taking place in both Mars and Venus. So there's going to be a lot of variables and shifts taking place in the romantic aspects of things, which means that we're going to be playing catch up for some of us, because stability may be looking different to what we once thought that it was, now that we've had a few different classes. And I think that that's the whole point of this month. It's really getting us to kind of say, well, are some of the ways that we've basically looked at stability before, is everything about that programming still serving us? Because we still need to get a lot more clarity so that we can get ready for this lunar eclipse, so that we can close out some of these cycles to make way for these new beginnings emotionally that are going to be taking place, right? And just sort of closing out that second week, where we've got that movement of Juno entering Capricorn. It's really, again, just indicative of the fact that we need to really sit with ourselves about what it is that we're sort of doing, because sometimes we're working towards a timeline, right? And when those timelines are manifesting and we're in the panic zone, we start to get to a place where, we don't know if we're going to pass the test by like all the resistances that we're meeting. And sometimes we're so exhausted, be it emotionally or mentally, we just want to quit, or we feel like we just want to give up. It is definitely going to be a new period of self-love for us, 100%. Ceres is retrograde still at the minute. And I think it's really giving us an opportunity to go back and look and re-observe what self-love looks like as well. Because what's going on is that we're also identifying the parts of ourselves that we love within collective consciousness. So self-love is growing not just from within, but also from without. So the layers of the reflections that we see of ourselves in others, those are going to be going through a reshaping and a reprogramming as well. And as we go into it, because it's like, okay, I like this quality of this person, I don't like that quality of that person. Again, we see what we are. It may not be things that we're engaging with consciously, but it may be things that has been bled into us over the course and process of our situation. But what I would say with navigating through some of these energies is it's really just a case of being completely transparent with ourselves. And when I say transparent, it really is a case of not just choosing to focus it on the positives, but also being able to face the negatives or face the resistances, because negatives makes it feel more daunting to us. But if we look at it as a resistance, we know that then there's actually an opportunity for us to really face the situation, because we're creating it. The T is Kanchan. The class that we're going to be sitting in for this November chapter of 2021 is it's about the way that we choose to love ourselves and how that's actually affecting and impacting our finances. Ain't that about a bee? So some of the ways that we feel about ourselves, we're going to get a little bit of awareness about how some of those programmings are affecting our relationship with not just money, but also the value that we bring to certain relationships, the value that other people bring to relationships, and whether or not those values actually meet the standards of what we require to be able to maintain healthy relationships. It is going to be quite the class, y'all. What I would say as well, like the planets, if you are sort of already sitting on any timelines about, investment opportunities, the stars are aligned for you to be able to gently be nudged into a wave that's able to really picking that up. Loving turning into finance. Absolutely. Absolutely. The currency, I'll tell you something, right? The currency that actually optimizes finance the most is the love currency. Greed can be able to manifest finances tangibly as well, but it also comes with its own karmic chain. So there's karmic strings attached. But it really is a case of us being able to sit this class and really identify just how we're actually hindering ourselves by the way that we're looking. I'm waiting for my trademark to go through. Pharaoh, love that, Rush. Hold tight. We love that. Well, I'm putting some positive sprinkling blessings on that for you. Okay. That for you, the fact that that's coming through at this time of your timeline, like for us as a collective, these breakthrough moments are really setting us up towards purpose. The things that we've been sort of setting our intentions towards manifesting. What's in the bag for students, education, who are not into investing? Okay, so what's in the bag for you guys? But Rush, good investment, okay? Good tides. The tides are here. The stars are aligned to be able to help you really build the momentum of a really good wave with that. So great investment. Kanchan, for those who are not necessarily investing in that dynamic, it's about how you're choosing to invest in yourself. So this is going to be a different class in essence. So it's about basically optimizing your relationship with yourself when it comes to self-worth and the things that you feel that you deserve. Okay, so God is saying to you, essentially, right? And I say you, but I'm speaking like collectively for those of us who are sitting that from a different class. And I thank you for that question as well. So God's really sort of saying to us, you know, there's so much value that you have within yourself. There's so much value that I have placed upon your heart, and for some reason you're struggling to be able to see that. It's kind of like the whole narrative of a butterfly not being able to kind of like see its own wings, right? God's like, you're so beautiful back there, like look at all the beautiful colors that I've given you to be able to bless this world with your own beauty, right? And if you consider those wings as an aura field, God is going to be giving us an opportunity to really understand what's going on in our aura as well. We're going to be transforming because it's going to be a subconscious reprogramming in essence as well. It is going to kind of give a lot of us who aren't necessarily sitting it, maybe from the entrepreneurship class, I guess, is going to give us an opportunity to really be able to understand how much where we're at with our self-worth and how much work we still need to do, and really starting to learn how to implement. So now that Mars is also in Scorpio, it's going to give us an opportunity to implement the actions that are necessary to be able to show ourselves the new level of dedication to this self-love and self-care that we're actually engaging with. Yes, but sometimes dopamine, serotonin levels gets low in body, and that's when you start losing in continuing work you used to do. What can you do for that? Love this question, Kanchan. So, what one wants to do? Do we do any vitamins? So this is something that I've recently actually even started preparing myself for the body hacks of November, right? Because there's so much movement that's going to be happening, right? So that we can be positioned, like I said, for all these amazing opportunities that are coming. It is going to sometimes leave us feeling a little bit exhausted. And we are going to, at some times, we are going to basically not lose sight of ourselves, but basically we'll have to prioritize other things, and we may kind of go into a place of lacking in terms of being able to maintain the level of self-care that we want to be able to, you know, moderate in the space when we're in those situations. So, okay, you did answer. Yes, you do take vitamins. That's great, right? What you're doing in that space is you're being able to optimize your body, because there are going to be certain moments astrologically, as well as these moon tides are moving as well. We are going to find ourselves where we're dealing with low emotional tides. What we need to do, if you can understand, so learn the rhythm. It is fine if we start taking medication or drugs, provided in the store. I would probably, do you know what? Phil, I actually have a code. I will, if you drop me an email, let me see if I can get my email address up on the screen. There we go. Okay, so that's my email, Kanchan. If you drop me an email, I think you tried to drop me an email before as well. I don't know if you managed to get it through because I didn't actually get one. But Phil, they actually do very good multivitamins on a subscription basis. And their vitamins actually have so many nutritional benefits, and it is organic. They are very, very I guess, intentional in the way that they're able to actually create the stuff that they're doing. So my cortisol used to be so high when my mother would force me to take health classes in college. Yeah, a lot of the times, like there's situations as well when we're kind of like being, I guess, there's other tides forcing us into different circumstances and different situations that causes a lot of stresses, basically. So now our human is in a place where it's meeting resistance because that's not maybe like a natural desire. Obviously, it's somebody else's intention, basically. So now it's a force for you into that tide again. When we find ourselves going into like these low levels, so observe what kind of personality shows up when your cortisol level is low. Same for you as well, Kanchan. Observe when you kind of find yourself in a place where dopamine's low and serotonin's low, what are the personality types that show up? So what do I mean by that? So is your pessimist more hypervigilant in that space? So you're only able to focus on the, I guess, the misfortunes of certain situations. Does your, honestly, the two are correlating, Rush. She didn't care because she didn't understand. The two correlate. So she needed to get understanding first to be able to care. Okay. And it's not personal. It's just that she felt like she was doing the best that she could to be able to optimize you as her, I guess, gift or prize to the world. You know how parents tend to be, you're kind of their property, basically. So it's not that she didn't understand nor care, it's that she didn't understand enough to be able to care. But honestly, give her the room to be able to kind of like just give you the forgiveness that you need, the gift of forgiveness that you need to be able to push past some of these things, right? What I would say as well, Kanchan, when we kind of find ourselves in these types of situations, we got to get into the process of disrupting the code, right? So if we find ourselves in the pessimist personality, for instance, when these levels are dropped, the shadow of the pessimist we know is the optimist, right? So we automatically have to basically try and find something even within the most narrow of perspective as the pessimist can, because the pessimist can look at very, very narrow sort of situations. Try and find whatever positives we can pick from that. And that in essence will start to be able to take the trajectory onto a different a different sort of coding. And also it's about doing things that we love. And when I say things that we love, it's like, okay, if the pessimist is showing up right now, what is the situation? For instance, the pessimist shows up because it's got an overlay of procrastination as the behavior showing up because the pessimist is here. The pessimist is basically fighting through the fear of something. What is it that the pessimist is fighting through fear of? Okay, because a lot of the times the pessimist is creating narratives based on past experiences out of fear of the unknown. What is it that you're focusing, or the pessimist personality is focusing on to be able to create its narrative? And that's where you'll be able to find the fear that is lying within your subconscious. Whatever it is that the pessimist is focusing on, there's a fear around it. Identify what the actual fear of the situation is. And then you'll be able to, again, hack the code, because now you're dealing with the issue at the root. You're dealing with it at the core of itself, right? when you kind of identify, and again, some of these fears may not even be in correlation with your adult self. It may be our childlike programming. So our inner child is going through updating during this season as well. It's just the natural process. A lot of this stuff, we're trying to balance both of these humans, right? The child within, the adult version of ourselves. And then there's a spirit version that is actually trying to be able to grow as much as possible. So it's a lot for us to do. But we've got this, guys. We've got this because I guess looking at the third week of November, we've got Vesta entering Sagittarius as well, which means that a lot of these philosophies are going to be updated towards the third week of November. We'll start to see some of those updates really showing up in our reality as well. And during that third week, we actually have Jupiter sort of like semi-squaring up to Chiron, which is retrograde in Aries at that point. So what I'm seeing with this kind of dynamic, right, it's like Jupiter is saying, look, I know that you're hurt. I know that you're scarred. I know that you're upset. I know that you've been through a lot. I know that you're wounded. I know that you feel as though you still need to be fighting on the battlefield, but just let me help you. Let me help you heal, because it's like Jupiter is basically saying to Chiron, like, Chiron's basically, wounded. Chiron's wounded and it's out, right? It's going into retrograde because it's having to withdraw its energy to be able to get some perspective on maybe why certain things happen during battle, right? During some of the situations that we dealt with. And Jupiter's coming in to kind of help Chiron, but Chiron is still in its primitive mode and Chiron's kind of like ready to charge. And Jupiter's kind of having this conversation like, I come in peace. I literally come bearing gifts. I come to be able to give you more of what it is that you feel that you need. You don't have to do this on your own. It's definitely going to be an interesting time. So around about the third week, we'll probably start to see a little bit of the networking connections kind of coming together as well. And also some of the people that maybe were not necessarily in a position to be able to show up in the way that you would have wanted them to at a certain point. Some of those timelines start to go through a little bit of a turnaround. Jupiter's not all about money, not at all. It's about blessings. And blessings can come in so many different ways. Blessings can come in karmic unfoldings, like learning the truth about a situation, which can sometimes feel painful because the truth hurts, right? But we've been praying for clarity on certain things for a long time. So sometimes that can be the side effect of Jupiter basically being able to bestow some of these blessings upon us. Are we truly ready and prepared to receive some of these things? Sometimes we're praying for it and we thought that it was just going to be it was going to show up in a different way, but this is the best way that it can actually show up for us to grow. And God actually wants us to be able to purge some of this shadow, some of this negativity. It's not all about money, but it does have a lot to do with the way that we're able to kind of like engage with the finances of things. When we think of blessings as well, there's like, when I can think of, how can I put it? So thinking about it, blessings come with sacrifices. So sometimes there are certain blessings that we're sort of getting. For instance, we've been trying to break a certain pattern or a certain habit for a long time, right? And it's tricky to be able to kind of navigate through some. Sorry, I was in a channel and then I got a little something that distracted me. But so for instance, we're in that kind of situation where the things that we're asking about receiving, they're starting to sort of show up and we start to doubt ourselves basically. And this is why God needs to highlight it to us. This is why God needs to show us, look, this is the thing that is keeping you too dense. This is the thing that is keeping you too heavy in vibration to be able to position yourself over here where I need you to be able to access all the shit that I got in store for you. Okay, pardon my French, guys, but You can't bring one hand. You need a couple of hands and some pots to bring to the table, because there's so much that is there on that level, right? But because we're still so low on certain things, God needs us to be able to purge some of that so that we can actually be elevated to these levels. And like I mentioned before, when we ascend, our shadows do ascend as well. So they do grow as well. So we kind of have to learn new tactics to be able to intercept their codes, and pretty much learn how they've evolved with the light as well as we get onto these new levels as well, because sometimes that's the thing that's throwing us off a little bit. Like, for instance, I was speaking to someone, and they were saying yesterday they were literally in a space of enthusiasm because we were speaking about like all these amazing astrological events that are going to be taking place this month. And today they woke up in the place of pessimism, right? Because again, they're moving now that all this movement has taken place. November is going to be so fast acting, guys, as far as these movements that are taking place. And it is more than likely going to cause our humans some levels of anxiety. That's okay. What we need to do in that moment is identify that we're in the panic zone. Like I said, the panic zone is cool. What we need to do in the panic zone is just take a minute to chill. Okay. Take a minute to chill and breathe. What we need to do is understand what are some of these thoughts that are up here that is causing the mental combustion, because this is when we go into anxiety, right? When our mind is basically congested with all of these thoughts. And as we find ourselves in these, I guess, mental combustions that are taking place, there's clearly an emotional confusion taking place. So we're going to have to pick the thoughts apart bit by bit to understand what is actually going on in that space. And once we're able to dissect it a little bit, then we have a little bit better. Why are our Caribbean parents so toxic? Unfortunately, my love, that's the level of toxicity that's been poured into them. It's just one of those things that we're here to continue to assist the timeline in purging. Don't worry, you chose a timeline for a reason. They're exactly that toxic because that's how much power of cleanse and purification you have within, my love. That's how bright your light is capable of shining. Okay, that's all it is. Like, because I say the same thing myself sometimes when I find myself like really navigating through a lot of these ancestral patterns and karma. But I also know that I signed up for that particular timeline. I signed up for that particular, I guess, lineage, because I saw something within myself as a soul. I felt like I would be able to help optimize that lineage's timeline moving forward beyond me. You know what I mean? And the same thing for you. You got to find the positives in it. The positives, I tell you what, the positives are the things that basically gives you an opportunity to be empowered, because the negatives it's surely focusing more on the lack of what you don't have, whereas a positive is focusing on the strengths of what you do have so that you can supercharge those things. But yeah, listen, when you sort of find yourself in those situations, find the positive. A millionaire investor gave me 2,000 in July 2019. I want more meetings like that. Profess it. So it shall be done. So it shall be done. Definitely keep putting that I guess that intention out there, and make sure that you're allowing for yourself to be positioned where you were. Think about the version of you in 2019 that basically aligned yourself with that timeline to receive that blessing then, right? Where were you emotionally? Where were you cognitively in terms of the experience that you were having? And then take it from there. Tap into that guy's skill set, that guy's qualities, and activate some of his presence in your present reality so that you can actually sort of, again, because you already accessed that. You already did that. Do you see what I'm saying? So now you just learn the code of what it is that you were in, what vibration you were in mentally, emotionally, what actions you were taking, what space you were in within your internal environment, being able to embrace some of these blessings. Find yourself back into some of those types of paradigms. I say it and it sounds simple enough, but it is that simple because you've already done it before. Do you see what I'm saying? You just need to identify what you did then, access some of those type of vibrations now, connect to some of those paradigms. Yeah, that's pretty much the way that those types of situations have to go. We have to go through the process of trial and error to really be able to understand what is actually the best course of action for us to take. So that is literally even more so some of the stuff that we're actually going to be navigating through for this November season. So I mentioned that we've got a partial lunar eclipse sort of taking place. That is taking place. It's a full moon partial lunar eclipse on the 19th of November in the third week, I guess, of this chapter. It's taking place in Taurus. So again, we've also got Uranus in Taurus as well, which means that there is going to be a lot of unpredictable situations and unpredictable circumstances. And I want to put this across to you guys. And the guides were telling me this earlier today when I was thinking about this astrological transit that's taking place for this month, right? They were saying to me the odds needs to be this drastic, basically, with Uranus being retrograde in Taurus until I think January of 2022. We need to be up against these odds. It needs to be this drastic, because if we can withstand the level of these tides, mashallah, honestly, the blessings that will come from it, oh my God, I'm so tintillated, guys. I'm so tintillated, because they're literally explaining like the probability. No. Honestly, unpredictable circumstances is the best thing. Okay, let's throw that out the door. Let's throw that out the door. Let me tell you why. Predictable circumstances are the stuff that keeps us stagnant. It's a reflection of our repetitive behavior. It's a reflection of our repetitive nature of doing things. The only thing that is constant in the universe is that change is constant, and everything must be on constant to some degree or shape. Being up against drastic odds means that if we can push past these levels of resistances, the breakthroughs that we will get will be magnificent. Okay, because now we're off the probability scale. We're no longer operating under the, not that we're not operating under the universal laws, but we're no longer operating under just the fate based Richter scale here. We're also now operating on the faith-based Richter scale. And there's, on that kind of scale, there's so many miracles that can take place. And that's how it would feel if we're able to get through some of these resistances. This is why if we're dealing with such high odds, if we can get through that breakthrough barrier, it will be amazing. Amazing. So definitely, it's not necessarily a negative situation. It's just something that we need to stay mindful of, right? Because there's a lot of things actually sort of taking place as well, sort of closing out the chapter that is November, if you will. So in the fourth week, we've actually got Mercury entering Sagittarius now. So Mercury is moving out of the transformation that we've had mentally, and it's now instating and reinstating these newfound philosophies. And that's going to be taking place from the 24th of November onwards. On the 26th of November, we've actually got Saturn sextiling Chiron. And again, Chiron is retrograde in Aries. So Saturn and Jupiter are having very serious conversations with Chiron about the way that we're allowing our wounded selves to perceive the reality that we're engaging with. Okay? Don't let your mummy wounds and your daddy wounds be a factor in why you rob yourself of certain opportunities that are going to be showing up for you during the course of this November chapter. Okay? I'm not saying that you need to dismiss those wounds. I'm saying what we need to do is nurse ourselves through those wounds. Okay? Deal with those wounds. When we talk about the things that we've navigated through and the things that we've been through, actually be open to creating space in our lives for it to be left in the past and not constantly dragged up in our future timelines as a negative deterrence for us to continue to have to navigate through. Saturn is really trying to have a conversation, from what I'm seeing with the situation with Chiron, to say, do you know what? I hadn't always been there for you in the way that I needed to. I hadn't necessarily been there for you in the way that I should have been. But that's because I wasn't even there for myself. I cannot give you what I did not have. And I'm sorry for the harm that I've caused along the way. I'm sorry for the hurt that I've caused. I'm sorry that I've reshaped your whole concept of the version of yourself that you feel that you are. These are going to be very, very important conversations that are going to be taking place. I want to say towards the 3rd and 4th week of November is going to be very, very, very interesting in terms of some of the conversations that we've had with people. Some of our runes are really going to start to get they're going to be confronted, basically. We're going to confront some of those runes towards the 3rd and 4th week. And in the process of the 1st and 2nd week, we're going to be getting clarity on potentially what runes we're going to be confronting in the 3rd and 4th week. Okay, so stay vigilant, not hyper vigilant, guys, because this is when anxiety becomes a regular statutory meal for emotional tides. Okay, but do regulate vigilancy over the course of the next few weeks to really understand what classes you're in certain situations. I don't think that they hate feelings. I think that they don't know how to process them. That's all it is. And feelings, I'm telling you, there are certain situations that we go through that are so big. It's a lot for our minds to get a hold, to get itself around, which is why we have to basically dissect it thought at a time. I think that they are scared of feelings because they do not know how to fully process them. And again, that is just based on their condition. They come from a different environment where that had to be the regulatory standards to be able to survive. So that was just all that was. That was how they survived their atmosphere for where they were. Do you feel like people, children can speak death on their parents? Yes. I feel like anyone can speak death over each other. And I thank you for actually bringing me that question, because that was something that I was actually having a conversation with my guides about today, actually. Death is a natural part of the process of sacrifice in order for life and new life, in some cases, for us to level up, because we are, how can I put it? Like, we're generational. You feel like you did unintentionally. That's okay. That's okay. So this, oh my love. Okay, Rush. That's okay. Right. So let me talk you through this. Even if that's the case, the universe can only take her if she is a willing participant in the sacrifice. Okay, so at some level of herself, her soul knew that she could not give you what you needed as her physical being, because she was too set in her ways. That human, I guess, that she was contained in was too set in certain ways, and she wasn't going to be able to give you what you needed to further your growth. That's okay. It came full circle. It came full circle. She could only have passed if she was willing to be a sacrifice for your growth. Okay, and these are some of the things that we have to understand as well, because sometimes we carry so much guilt for some of the natural ways that life, I guess, has to happen. And I'm not like basically okaying it and saying that people should go out there and have these types of conversations with people. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that if we sometimes say things that we feel that we don't necessarily mean in the moment, there's a reason why those things are being said. And it's okay for you to be able to honor your experience by accepting that you did say those things, and those things did have consequences, and those consequences did reveal themselves to you over time. But the beautiful thing about the situation is now she can be the type of parent that she wanted to be able to be to you in waking life, that she just didn't have the capacity to do within the kind of vessel that she had, because she was very set in her ways. Like you mentioned, Caribbean people, they have a lot of patterns that is very, very difficult to disrupt unless they start to re-educate themselves from a younger stage of life. it can be very, very tricky. And even then, it depends on the kind of, work that we're able to do with them. Because I'm Jamaican, man. Okay, I have Jamaican parents, Jamaican family. I was born in Jamaica. Okay, came to the UK when I was 12. I'm 31, so I've been here for 19 years, and it's by being able to have the different dynamic or the different experience that I was able to give myself at least an opportunity to break through some of their very limited beliefs and their very limited perspectives on certain things. And I think it's just one of those things. I feel like I sacrificed her for growth or money, like I did some ritual unintentionally. Honestly, beautiful. Jamaica in the building. No, I understand. I understand it feeling like that, and it will because the realization. And I thank you for even like sharing this in this space. I thank you for your vulnerability. I thank you for just being so willing to be open and honest and transparent with us. A lot of the times, it's just the way that the universe works. And one of the things that you as a soul may be here to work on is guilt. Because I'm sure that you struggle to be able to forgive yourself for that, which means that you probably struggle to be able to forgive her for some of the things that she did do in waking life, even though you understand it. Absolutely, absolutely. It's definitely, it was a dream of my mum's to basically come to foreign because you know how they talk. And I guess it wasn't necessarily a desire of mine, but I guess in order to be able to optimize my human, I needed to be able to break free from that environment to be able to allow for my consciousness to expand as well. So the money she looked out for me for can turn me into a superstar that I've always wanted to be. Yeah. And that's honestly, I know it feels very, very healthy, very, very heavy, sorry. Sort of like navigating through some of these. So you already know basically like what class you're going to be sitting if you're even having this conversation this openly, because the two are correlating. You've already identified it. So the class that you're going to have to be sitting is the guilt that you are, I guess, carrying on your heart for the unintentional sacrifice. But understand as well, like we have contracts, okay? We have contracts. We have co-tracts in fact, because I don't really like the term contract because it makes it sound very one-sided, but we have co-tracts. So just as much as, you feel guilty for the way in which things kind of panned out, she also feels guilty for the way in which life itself panned out, which is why she was able to be a willing participant in the sacrifice of your evolution process. I've always been a creative, but they never understood that. Well, I'm going to put this across to you. You are maybe the one part of themselves that is a reminder of the creative within themselves that they choose not to engage with. Because let's be clear here, you're coming in as an extension of that lineage. Myself, right? Since my great grandmother, I'm fourth generation psychic, but my mom didn't practice, my grandma didn't practice in the way that my great grandma, because my great grandma was basically training my mom, but she wasn't really interested. And I was just that egg that was sat in there saying, oh my God, I want some of this. I would love to have some of that. Let me do that. I'm open to that. Please and thank you. So I became the next version of my mom, her 2.0, to be able to activate that part that she just wasn't interested in. Okay. It's that kind of dynamic. You were literally just sat there thinking, oh my God, I wanted to be able to be like this creative. Like they were feeling this innate creativity within themselves and they didn't tune into it. They didn't tap into it. But here you come, Rush, and you're like, rush to the building. I got this. Sit back, hold tight. This is all me. Okay. You felt like that that I guess spark for you as a soul coming into this particular lineage, that was good enough for you to be able to, I guess, come and have the experience of what was about to unfold, much like the situation that took place. And I'll tell you something. We all have a story. We all have a story when it comes to, the way that things kind of like pan out as we get here. And it's not necessarily the way that we think that is going to feel when we get into these human bodies. But it's fine. You can optimize yourself. If you can overcome some of this guilt that you may have, that's your breakthrough, my love. That's your breakthrough. Okay. On that note, I'm going to love you and kind of like lock the space down for you guys, because I was only supposed to be here for an hour. So I'm actually going to sign out of this space. But guys, this is going to be a really, really good window of growth and change. And if we're willing to do what's necessary for this growth and change to take place, we've got the last quarter moon taking place in Virgo on the 27th of November. So all of the smaller details would have then been starting to be put in place for us by the 27th. We start to basically see the manifestation, if you will, of some of the things that we've really been working towards, even in the smallest of way. The small things are really going to be making a big wave of transition for us. And we'll be able to see it by the end of this month. It's going to be epic, guys. Okay, so definitely get your notepads and pens out. Identify what classes you're in. It's important because by the third week, we're going to be tested. Okay, in the first 2 weeks, we're learning the classes that we're in. We're optimizing so that we can revise for the test at the end of the month, third and fourth week. Okay. Let's get a move on, guys. And you've got this, Rush. You've got this. This is what you signed up for, okay? And you'll do it for the lineage. You'll do it for the lineage because that's what you signed up for. It's a part of your contract, okay? I'm sending you guys so much love. Definitely be sure to comment down below. Let me know how you guys have been able to effectively utilize the information. Definitely subscribe if you want to join the tribe so that we can get a little bit more adept at navigating through class. Yeah, give me a thumbs up and let me know how you're liking the actual content as well, so I know if you guys are appreciating it. Give me some feedback as well, because sometimes I'm talking and I don't know if I'm always connecting in the way that I want to. So if you guys have got any constructive feedback, I'm open, okay? Because I want to be able to attract more of us into this space to be able to work as much as possible so that we can tip the scales a little bit, okay? Because yes, chaos at the minute is the natural, I guess, force that's pushing a lot of these changes. But if we can get into a balanced space, chaos doesn't necessarily have to be the forefront of the energy force that is utilized for the universe. And we can actually tip the scale. So the intention is to be able to get enough of us into a space so that we can kind of like get things to pivot a little bit. So on that note, for Caribbean spots, when I come to the UK, got you. Don't worry. Let me know when you're coming. Okay. On that note, beautiful people, I'm going to love you guys and leave it there for you guys. Have an awesome season. It may feel like a lot, but you are designed for this, specifically for this, in fact. Okay, you're in this season, on this timeline, in this lifetime of existence for exactly that reason. On that note, I'll see you guys in the next video. Ta-ra, guys. Love you guys.
All the things they said to hold her back, they never seem to leave her head and tend to keep her mind at war. All the things they said to hold her back, they keep her locked inside of all the times when she's been hurt before.
See you guys in the next one, my loves. Take care. Mwah.